This question comes from somebody whose name I actually remember for once, and the reason I do is because the first time that I read it, I went, Vag. Oh, Venger, that sucks. No, it's a lovely name, but pretty close to Moot, you got to admit. And also, she asks something fairly Moot related. Sorry, boys. But, look, I do ones for you as well, so shut up. I'm sick of all these people coming in and just going like, you just did one based on chicks. Yeah, and next time I'll do one based on guys. If I feel like it. Fuck off. Stop criticizing me. Give me one day of rest. Can't handle it. And by can't handle it, I mean I'm tough as nails, bruz. Because I'm a man! Now. Alright. Yeah, here's what Vanger wrote. Hey Jordan, can you do a vid and focus on how work, study, skill building when you've got shit going on in your personal life, e.g. breakup or an argument with a friend/family member? Apparently been really good at compartmentalizing. I don't have dyslexia, compartmentalizing this stuff, but can't relate over here. Teach us ladies the ways of the emotional detachment, please. Hey, with pleasure, Vanger. And I can do that because I'm one of the most detached human beings on the planet. I really honestly think that. And I think that there's a lot to do with, it's nature and nurture. Yeah, obviously I'm a dude. Got that sorted. Second, I had a pretty tumultuous childhood, and so when you have that, not as bad. I'm not one of those people that was just like, I was raped by every family member, including my dog. But, yeah. Worse than the kids that I went to school with, most of them. There was this one kid that now that I look back at it, I think, damn, you really were Kenny McCormick from South Park, weren't you? But I think as a result of that, what happens is there's this psychological theory that people grow up to be either islands, waves, or anchors. And I think that I grew up to be an island, which is one of those people that just, when I'm feeling pressured or when I feel like I'm in a bad mood, I actually retreat further into myself and go, imagine this making me feel better just being by myself in a room all day like I currently am right now, as always. And then there's obviously waves, which are just usually, and it skews a lot towards biology, but men can do that as well. Anyone can, it depends a lot on the type of relationship that you had with your parents. So parents that were usually away from their kids a lot, usually they're the ones that become whiny little needy bitches when they grow up in their relationships. Are always like, you're never there for me. And then anchors are people that just had happy childhoods. And then, so islands usually had a wave as a parent that's going, you should be not just my son, but my husband and my father. And then people that usually come from islands are usually products of those kids that then produce waves because they're always just going, oh, sorry, I couldn't take you to the game. I was banging my secretary. Those are the ways that usually rolls. So you should be thinking about that in relation because it's just interesting and helps you out in relationships further on down the path if you can identify which of those you are. And anchors are just people that are normally adjusted. And surprisingly rare. Actually, not even surprisingly rare. Now, onto you specifically. I think that biologically, women are at a disadvantage here, just in the same way that men are at a disadvantage when it comes to social and emotional intelligence, which are the most important skills to success, but the foundation, the absolute foundation of success is being able to develop a skill in the first place. If you have all three of those things, you're sorted. You're one of those rare few people, and I think I've met one in my entire life, my booking manager, that's it. She's a gun, and I think it's because she did a lot of behavioral psychology, and so she, as a result, understands masculine and feminine energies. But very quickly, masculine and feminine energies. Feminine energies, a little more ethereal. I think this has a lot to do with the fact that women, because they are more socially and emotionally intelligent, it's kind of like when you go and see a palm reader and they sit there and go, it looks like you're having some health issues. No, you're not having health issues. Actually, your health is really good. It's really good. It's going to stay that way. They're just reading your face. They're very good at it. In fact, I'd pay for the money just for that. Being cold red is impressive in itself, all right? No argument. And I want you think about it from that angle, which is that men, precisely because they have that much more autistic mind of focusing on one thing at the peril of everything else. I'm pretty sure if a nuclear blast happened, You know how there's that picture in Terminator of that skeleton holding onto that playground equipment going because of the blast? I would be on my laptop just going, and another reason the Liberals are shit. My skeleton's still trying to type the end of the sentence. No. That's the male mind. The male mind finds something that it likes and it gets obsessed with it. And that is why they are able to build huge corporations and push society forward, because they do the hard yards that usually women are incapable of doing. And by incapable, I mean they're not naturally inclined towards it. There is clearly women that are. My girlfriend is a classic example of that. I think she is one of the Terminators. But in general, that's the case. And having said that, the people in my life who I know are the most emotionally and socially intelligent are men. They're better than the women I know. Far better, but they are rare. Most of the women I know are much more socially and emotionally in tune than men are. And similarly, they're the same ones that I was like, I don't know what to do at uni. I think I'm going to drop out. I'm going to start up another uni degree. Oh, I'm 25. Where are my eggs? They don't have a very clear-cut mind. So it is not just you, Vandra. This is a common biological thing that happens between men and women. And it's the same reason that there's so many incels writing there like, how do I get a girlfriend? I haven't seen a vagina. I'm 35. It's the same reason why you can't focus. It's just the reverse problem, which is, so this is always my advice to both men and women when it comes to this. Men need to read a lot of books on social and emotional intelligence. If you need to pick up to do so, that's fine, because that is pretty much just social and emotional intelligence, just with the word puss way more in it to keep your attention. And when it comes to women, what you need to focus on is books like Time Warrior and Flow by Miss Cal. Those books are really crucial to your development in kind of becoming this combined being that is both masculine and feminine. You want to be one of those things, right? One of those new age pictures of just a human that's just got the universe inside itself. I'm pretty sure that's how you do it. You just get out your inner man! And there's two ways of watching that. Either you watch a season of NRL or you read those books. And I strongly recommend that you do that, because the ones that just read the season of NRL, they're usually the ones that are also going to, oh yeah, you know what my goal in life is? To brew my own beer. Oh, it tastes way shitter than VB, and VB's pretty shit to begin with. You, on the other hand, if you start reading those books, if you start reading books about how to get into flow, you are going to be at a distinct advantage to your sisters. And that's because their mind works like that. You hear this all the time, exactly what you're talking about. For instance, I've had girlfriends in the past that ring me up going, I just can't get over what you said 2 days ago. I can't even remember what I said, baby. And usually it's some bullshit point. To a guy's mind anyway, because we're always like, oh, you care about things, what a pussy. Because we actually don't. We really do not care about anything, including ourselves. This is why we're pretty gung-ho about war. If you can just get into our minds that we've got to defend the motherland, we're like, ah! It's because we actually are better able to transcend ourselves, and at the same time, that's why we're usually more sociopathic than chicks are. And it's because, but at the same time, look, you're welcome for the last 60 years of freedom and peace. Okay? But it's these problems that are constantly conflicting with each other. When it comes to women, you get usually upset by things that men don't get upset by, because their mind goes into flow state a lot easier. They usually find out something that they're good at very early on, and then they just keep practicing it, and they keep getting better and better and better and better and better. And because they're not so... In fact, you can see it in teenagers. Usually with women, they just sit around in circles at school just being like, oh my God, Cassandra, did you see what she wore today? It was the same thing that I was wearing. I can't believe it. She did that on purpose, didn't she? She did that on purpose. And they come up with these weird psychotic fantasies in their mind of how their friends are plotting against them. Guys don't do that, do they? What do? They go home, play video games. Fuck off, mum. That's it. They just get obsessed with something. Video games, again, is something that's really perverse and is preying on that thing in a man's mind that gives them their advantage in life and just makes it the absolute opposite. Makes you a man baby. But back to women. For the fifth time, just keep paying out dudes. What happens with you guys is that you get distracted by your female brain caring about things. You got to stop that. And the way that you do that is by knowing this quote. I think this quote sums it up best, which is that freedom comes from flow. You will stop caring about those things if you are able to get yourself focused on the task at hand. Now, there's two key ways of doing this. The first one that I think is most important for women, you have to prioritize. And what do I mean by prioritization? You don't just sit there and you can just sit down there and listen and just be like, number one, get a degree. Number two, have a cocktail. You could do that. That's the first stage of it. But the second stage of it is to write reasons for why it's important. And then on top of that, what you need to do before you even prioritize, usually, is you need to clarify what you're upset about. Because that's just the way that your brain works. I have to do it sometimes as well, nowhere near as much as I'm assuming you're going to have to do it. Which is that every time you're upset with someone, say that you had a fight with your mum or your dad or whatever, and then you just sit there and you're writing out what you're pissed off about. That has the same impact as having the conversation to the person mentally on your mental well-being. If you write out what you're annoyed about and why you're so hurt by them not picking you up from indoor soccer, that never happened to me, by the way. I bet you there's people that are going like, inside into each other. I didn't play sport. I'm blind in one eye. This is my entire sport career. If you're able to do that, you will feel the same weight off your chest as you would have had if you just sat there and then your mum just, in a theoretical world, sat there and listened to you for the entire hour and went, I do not see this differently at all. You're 100% right. Do you want to go out for ice cream? It's the same impact on your mind because your mind doesn't actually know the difference between imagining things and experiencing things, or there's very little difference between it. And that is of huge relief to you mentally. If you just write that. And then on top of that, you can go in and you can have a better, more cogent, more civil discussion with what you're upset by, even when you are talking to that person, if you need to do that afterwards anyway, because you have written down your thoughts and they become clarified, which is another thing. The other thing that you find, usually in relationships with guys, that this is going to be something that all the chicks are going to go, oh my God, but it's true. A lot of women like drama. They like turmoil. Just like how guys like sitting there and smoking weed and going, dude, Anchorman 2. What a movie. Guys like being in just that giggly, lazy mode their entire life. Their entire life would be awesome if they were just like, and then every now and then they just jizz. That would be the perfect life for them. But women like the roller coaster of emotions. They like the lows as much as they like the highs. Guys don't like that. Guys just like being on one of those really simple 5-year-old rides at the Erina entrance where you just go around on a crap train going around in a circle. That is our emotional state. So you should be factoring that in as well. That when it comes to your emotional state, you should be knowing that is something that a lot of women like to be addicted to, which is why they usually end up in relationships. Not usually, but a lot of women do end up in relationships with guys that are total dicks. It's because they're fulfilling that need of just being like, you're a stupid bitch. Oh, how could you be so cruel? If you're able to identify that as a problem, just like how guys have to identify the fact that they can't even get the chick in the first place because they're so socially retarded, it is the same thing with you. Your emotion, if you're able to track your emotional roller coaster and understand that dip is actually not very good for your psyche. You might crave it, but there's other ways to do it. Just watch a sad movie or whatever. But that experience that you're talking about, of that dip there, you can phase that out of your life. And the way that you phase it out of your life is knowing how to address it properly. The first way, obviously, is what I just said, which is to write out why you're upset and the fake conversation that you want to have with that person, that will alleviate a lot of that mental anxiety and it will narrow that feeling out. Once that feeling is narrowed out, again, the reason guys crave consistency, they buy usually the same thing, they usually go to the same restaurants and order the same things over and over. We're Labradors. We like the same things, and the reason we do is because if your day is the same, you have the same level of productivity as the day before. I know that women like the variety of life, but if you want to be successful, what you want to have is a very narrow life in terms of experience. You just want to have... This is why I've got the same shit. I've just got a bunch of white shirts and grey shirts. I do eat the same thing every day. It is because I'm focusing all of that mental effort onto one task. So, once you've done that, then you want to prioritize a list. Do you want to go and address the person after writing down what you're upset about? If you don't want to do that, if you want to go ahead with your career, write down why you want to go ahead with your career. Make it as real as possible in your mind why that is your first priority. What will start happening is that you will start clouding out the other things that are bothering you, and your mind, like we were talking about with goal setting, will start moving towards that goal. That will become what is encompassing the forefront of your mind, and as a result of that, you will be spending more and more time doing it. So, once you've prioritized those lists, once you've done that, the other third point that I have, which is actually kind of just overkill at this point, I think anyway, but just to give you the truth, I want you to think about it. It's so like Bunnings Warehouse where they're just going, well, a Phillips head will do it, but also this handy-dandy Buster Grinder 6000. This is what that is, the Buster Grinder 6000. This, I think, is really important in this circumstance. When you're becoming a chain warrior, as they say, what they focus on is just saying, just set a timer next to you and make it a very achievable amount of time. Say 10 minutes where you're just sitting there with no distractions, writing. Then you hear the timer go and go, then you set it up to 20 minutes. Then you write, and then when you hear it go, you set it up for another 20 minutes. You just keep building it up. So you, in fact, start even earlier than 10 minutes. Start with 3 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, then 20 minutes. And each time you're just conditioning your brain that now it's time to do this task. Then, because there's a lot of varying opinions on this, and some people say that you can concentrate for a 3-hour block, and that's true. In fact, if you're able to concentrate for a 3-hour block, you usually do more work in that 3 hours than most people do in a week. Because most people are trying to distract themselves, you're trying to focus. But I personally can't concentrate for that long. So what I do is every hour or every 2 hours, when I just start to feel fidgety, you will feel it in your body, you get up and you do a small amount of exercise, just some push-ups, just even a walk around the block, anything like that, because it's just able to get your mind back on track, back ready to focus again. When you start seeing yourself, finicking around, looking into Facebook, or you just start thinking, oh God, that problem again, it's better to think about that problem while walking because you're oxygenating yourself. How many times have I said you're oxygenating yourself? Those are the three things. So remember that. Write out the fake letter. Prioritize what you want. And on top of that, become a chain warrior by starting up with just a small amount of time. Your 3 minutes, then your 5 minutes, then your 10 minutes, then your 20-minute blocks. So you're conditioning your mind to focus. That's a recipe for success. God damn. I haven't done that in years. Thank you for reminding me about that, Roger. It's just... now my life is just so obsessive that I don't need to do that. That's what's really good about these things, is you think that you have to do these habits for the rest of your life. You don't. They just become a way of life after a certain point. Well, thank you so much for your question. Give me more questions, press the like button, and don't forget to subscribe, press the notification button. See you, peace.